Hi everyone, it's Laura here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm gonna show you how to make a watercolored floral card using the exclusive STAMPtember stamp in collaboration between Studio Katia and Simon Says Stamp. For my card today I will be using my Gansai Tambi Watercolors and I will be mixing my own colors, and this is because the Gansai Tambi pans are very bright, but I wanted to have a more desaturated look because I wanted to create a card with a fall feel to it. So as a first step, I selected a few colors from the 36 set that I own. So these again are the Gansai Tambi Watercolors. And I picked a few reds, a few greens and some purples to create my palette. I also brought in a light blue that I will be mixing with my purple to create two different shades of lilac, one with more blue to it and the second one with a bit more purple to it. As I said, I was going after a muted color palette, and the beauty of the Gansai Tambi watercolors is that they are really bright, but as I said, this is not the look I was going for my card. So what I did is for each color I brought in a little bit of its complementary. So for the reds I used a little bit of green, and this basically will tone down my colors and will allow me to get a more desaturated look and also a deeper tone. I added a bright yellow to the mix and I will just put it right here next to my greens because I don't want to mix it in yet, but I will use it later on to brighten up one of the greens. And then finally I created one additional shade of purple, and to tone it down I added a little bit of yellow to the mix. I will list all the colors that I used and the mixes I created on my blog post for your reference, but basically it's just a matter of thinking a little bit about color theory and complementary colors, and as with everything it's about experimenting and having fun. As I said at the beginning of the video, the stamp set that I'll be using today is the Fresh Bunch stamp set. This is an exclusive for STAMPtember and it's a collaboration between Simon Says Stamp and Studio Katia. And this set, like every other set for STAMPtember, is a limited edition set, so once it sells out, it's gone forever. So if you wanna get your hands on it, I advise that you do it quickly because usually STAMPtember stamps sell out really fast. Here I have a piece of Canson XL watercolor cardstock that I cut using the Studio Katia Dotted Patterns Set 1 dies. I am trying to find a nice position for my stamp and I want it to hang off the top right corner of my panel. And then once I'm happy with the position, I can close the lid of my MISTI, pick up the stamp, and because I wanted to do some heat embossing with gold embossing powder, I am first prepping my surface with an anti-static powder tool. I am then inking up my stamp with Versamark ink. This is a clear sticky ink. And then I can close the lid of my MISTI and stamp my image on the cardstock. And because I am using my MISTI, I am able to stamp a second time so that I am sure that all my stamped lines are nicely transferred to the textured watercolor cardstock. And then I can go ahead, coat the stamped lines with gold embossing powder, tap off the excess, and then melt the embossing powder with my heat gun. I repeated the same steps on the bottom left corner of the card, where I stamped another portion of this image from the Fresh Bunch stamp set, and then I started watercoloring. As you can see, I already went ahead and painted in one of the two portions of my card, because I didn't want this video to be too long, and the techniques that I used are the same on all the images on today's project. For today's card, I decided to use the wet on dry technique, which is a little bit more controlled. So this means I will not pre-wet the paper as I would do if I was using the wet on wet technique. But what I'm doing is I am coming in with my paintbrush loaded with pigment. I am laying down the pigment where the shadows will be. And then I will clean off my brush, load it with some clean clear water, and then I will be adding the clean clear water starting from the highlight areas and making my way towards the shadow areas until I basically touch the pigment that I laid down, and then I will move on and start working on another area. And this way, the pigments that are already on the paper will move around because of the presence of the water, and I will get a nice blend. I will use this technique to paint in the rest of the image, and while I do that, I will leave you with some nice music, and I will catch you guys when it's time to put our card together. Once the painting was over and my colors were dry, I created some quick masks out of some scratch paper, and to add a little bit of interest to this panel, I am adding some splatters using the same red and purple colors that I had mixed in on my palette. And then I also picked up my Perfect Pearls in Perfect Gold, mixed it with some water and added some golden splatters to the background as well, that will tie in very nicely with the embossed lines. And in order to get a little bit of that golden shimmer on my flowers too, I removed the masks and flicked my paintbrush loaded with this Perfect Pearls solution on top of the flowers. And here I am filling them in a little bit with one of the reds that I mixed, but I'm being really careful not to add too much. I picked one of the sentiments from the Fresh Bunch stamp set and I chose the one that reads Birthday Wishes. I heat embossed it with gold embossing powder on some dark red cardstock, and I created a banner out of it. To trim the banner down to size, I am using a dotted rectangle die by Studio Katia, so that when I align it with my front panel, I will have a nice dotted border all around. For my card base, I used this beautiful wood grain pattern paper. This is by Studio Light, and it's part of the paper pad that is called Wooden Boards Teal. And because it was a little bit too cool, I wanted it to be a little bit more of a warm brown. I am adding some shading and some color using Distress inks. I am blending the inks with a Ranger mini blending foam, and I picked tea dye, vintage photo and ground espresso. And I forgot to mention that I cut this panel to an A2 size using the Studio Katia Darling Ribbon and Frames die set. At this point my card is almost finished, so I adhered the front panel to the background using some fun foam. And now I'm using some double-sided tape to adhere the banner with the sentiment to the front panel. I decided to quickly decorate the inside of the card too, so my card base is a top-folding A2 card base that I created out of white cardstock, and now I am stamping that same floral image and the sentiment that reads "Have a wonderful day" using Distress Oxide in aged mahogany. For some finishing touches, I decided to use some beautiful Studio Katia gold foiled confetti, which were just perfect for this card, and I am using my glossy accents and my jewel picker to glue them down to the card front. And here you can see the finished card and all the beautiful shine brought in by the confetti, the gold embossing powder and the perfect pearls. Remember that the stamp set that I used today is a limited edition stamp set available at Simon Says Stamp, and it will be there just until supplies last. So if you like it, make sure to grab yours really fast, because once it's gone forever. And that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. You can visit my blog for the full list of supplies, and I'll catch you guys soon with the next one. Ciao!